One day my mentor said, if you want to be wealthy and happy, learn this lesson well. Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Since that time I've been working on my own personal development. And I must admit that this has been the most challenging assignment of all. This business of personal development lasts a lifetime. You see, what you become is far more important than what you get. The important question to ask on the job is not, what am I getting? Instead, you should ask, what am I becoming? Getting and becoming are linked. What you become directly influences what you get. Think of it this way. Most of what you have today, you have attracted by becoming the person you are today. So here's the great axiom of lifetime, more, got become a more, abar. This is where you should focus most of your attention. Otherwise, you just might have to contend with the other axiom, which is your unless is wo you hanji hadu wawar. Oh God, income rarely exceeds personal development. Sometimes income takes a lucky jump, but unless you learn to handle the responsibilities that come with it, it will usually shrink back to the amount you can handle. If someone hands you $1 million, you'd better hurry up and become a millionaire. A very rich man once said, if you took all the money in the world and divided it equally among everybody, it's imo its high pockets it was for, its tel kakach has not biaude audigar personel di vilo melapane. Vili I used to wonder, why would one person be paid a certain amount and another be paid 4 times as much when they both work for the same company, handle the same product, work the same number of years, and come from the same backgrounds? What a puzzle. Why would one person do twice as well economically? It must be a matter of time, I thought. Some people do much better because they have more time. If I had more time, I could also do well, but you can't get someone else's time. A man once said to me, if I had some extra time, I would make some extra money. I said, then you'll have to forget it. There isn't any more time. Where would you find any? Listen, my friend, when the clock strikes midnight, that's it. It's all over. There isn't any more time. So if you can't take more time, what could you create that would make the difference in economic results? The answer is value. Value marks the difference. You can never create more time, but you can become more valuable. This concept of value is a primary lesson in economics. Whether you sell goods or services, you get paid for the value you bring. Now I know that you'll spend time bringing value to the marketplace, but you don't get paid for the time, you get paid for the value for your productivity. Someone might say, I make $20 an hour. That's not true. If it were true, he could just stay home and have them send over the money. No, he doesn't get paid for the hour. He gets paid $20 for the value that has been placed on the hour he works. Paying by the hour is simply a convenient way to measure anticipated value. That's why it is important to ask, is it possible to become twice as valuable and thus earn twice as much money? Is there a way for me to become 3 times or even 4 times more valuable within the same hour? And the answer is, of course, you can become more valuable if you go to work primarily on your mind. You see, it's easy to get faked out. Someone says, I've got 10 years experience. I don't know why I'm not doing better. What they haven't realized is that they don't have 10 years experience. What they have is 1 year of experience repeated 10 times. They haven't made a single improvement, a single innovation in years. Everybody wants more money, but most people look for it in the wrong places. People often ask me, how do I develop an above average income? The answer is become an above average person. How? For starters, develop an above average handshake. Some people who say they want to succeed don't even work on their handshake. As easy as it would be to improve, they fail to do it. They don't understand. Then develop an above average smile. Develop an above average interest in others. Develop an above average intensity to win. This will change everything. There is nothing more pointless than looking for an above average job with above average pay without becoming an above average performer. I used to say, I sure hope things will change. That seemed my only hope. If conditions weren't going to change, I was in serious trouble. Then I found out nothing was going to change, and I felt like I was drowning. Not long ago, I met with a group of executives. We were sitting around a huge table when one of them said, you know, some important people, what do you think the next 10 years will bring? I said, gentlemen, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. Based on my life's experiences, I've concluded that in the coming 10 years, it's going to be like the seasons. This is absolutely true! The tide comes in and then what? That's right. It goes out. It's been that way for at least 6,000 years of recorded history. It gets light and then it gets dark. That's the way it's been. We are not to be startled by this anymore. When the sun goes down, a man says, what happened? What happened? We'd surely know that he just got here, right? The next season after fall is right again. And pray tell, how often does winter follow fall? Every time, without fail, for at least 6,000 years. True, some winters are long and some are short, some are difficult and some are easy. But no matter what, they always come after fall. It isn't going to change. Sometimes you can figure it out, sometimes it's a puzzle. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it's a disaster. Sometimes it sails along, sometimes it gets all tied up in knots. You see, it's not going to change. After 6,000 years of recorded history, life is a mixture of opportunity and difficulty. That's the way it is. Someone says, well then, how will my life change? And the answer is, your life will change only when you change. Whenever I speak, my message is always the same. The only way it gets better for you is when you get better. Bidaras nati samambio it samanida wo bikami. So and so for life, if here are two phrases I want you to consider. The first is, life and commerce are like the seasons. The second is, you cannot change the seasons, but you can change yourself. And now, with these two phrases as guides, let's take a look at the seasons of life and how you can best handle them. Winter, a time to grow strong. First and foremost, learn how to handle winters. There are all kinds of winters. There are economic winters, when the financial wolves are at the door. There are physical winters, when our health is shot. There are personal winters, when our heart is smashed to pieces. Wintertime, disappointments, loneliness. So the big question is, how do we handle the winters? Some people go to the calendar, tear out the month of January, and pretend it isn't there. But that's the childish approach. It solves nothing. Let me tell you what mature people do. They get stronger, they get wiser, they get better. Not a bad idea to use the winter for personal development. Before I understood this, I used to spend my winters looking for summers. I didn't understand. Then, finally, when I was going through a difficult time, my mentor said, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for fewer problems, wish for more skills. Don't wish for less of a challenge, wish for more wisdom. Since then, I can't honestly tell you that I've welcomed the winters, but I can tell you that I've used them to gear up for spring, which always comes after winter. Spring, a time to take advantage, learn to take advantage of spring. What a great place for spring to be, right after winter. Opportunity follows difficulty. Expansion follows recession, just like clockwork. Spring is the time to take advantage. Make a note of these two words. Take ADV. Don't let the balmy weather confuse you. If you want to look good in the fall, this is the time to plant the seeds. In fact, we all have to excel at one of two things. Either we become good at planting in the spring, or we learn how to beg in the fall. So get busy in the spring. There is just a handful of springs for each of us. Life is so short. Summer, a time to take care, learn to nourish and protect your crops all summer. You can bet that as soon as you've planted, the insects and weeds will try to destroy your crop, and they will succeed unless you prevent them. Part of succeeding is learning to protect what you've created. And that's the greatest lesson of summer. Here are two truths you'll learn during your summers. First, you'll learn that all good will be attacked. Don't press me for the reason. I don't know why, but I do know that it's true. Every garden will be invaded. Not to understand this is naive. Second, you'll learn that all values must be defended. All values, social, political, marital, commercial, must be defended. Every garden must be tended all summer. Unless you defend what you believe in, come fall, you'll have nothing left. Fall, a time to take responsibility. Fall is the season where we reap the results of our springs and summers. Maturity can be defined by our ability to take full responsibility for the crops we have tended, either bountiful or meager. Accepting full responsibility is one of the highest forms of human maturity, and one of the hardest. It's the day you pass from childhood to adulthood. Learn to welcome fall without apology or complaint. Without apology if you've done well, and without complaint if you've not. It's not easy, but it's the mature thing to do. I used to have a lot of problems in this area. Just in case anyone asked, I used to carry with me a list of the reasons I wasn't doing well. My list included lots of alibis. I blamed the government, I blamed taxes, I blamed prices, I blamed the weather, I blamed the traffic, I blamed my car, I blamed my negative relatives, I blamed my cynical neighbors. I blamed the community. Hey, I had lots of good reasons for not doing well. At least I thought I did. My mentor was very kind, but he was also blunt. One day he looked up at me and with a quizzical expression on his face asked, just out of curiosity, tell me why you haven't done well up to now. Excellent question, right? Well, so that I wouldn't look bad, I decided to run through my list. I went through the whole litany, the government, taxes, prices, everything. He listened patiently as I went through it all. When I was finished, he peered at my list for a few moments. Finally, shaking his head, he said, there's only one thing wrong with your list. You ain't on it. Afterward, I quickly tore up my list of reasons for not doing well. Then I got a fresh piece of paper and put one word across the top, May. There's a spiritual that says it all. It's not my mother, nor my father, nor my brother, nor my sister, but it's me. Oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. I used to blame everything outside me for my lack of progress until I found that my problem was inside. It's not what happens that determines the outcome. What happens, happens. And it happens to everybody. Two brothers have an abusive, alcoholic father. One becomes a criminal, the other a judge. The same event, different results. How can that be? It's because it's not what happens, but rather what you and I do about it that matters. Anything can happen, right? There's a law that says, if anything can go wrong, it will. And it does. I too have fallen out of the sky many times, once with devastating financial loss. It took me a while to get over that one. But those are happenings that everyone's got his or her story. Someone says, yes, but you don't understand the disappointments I've had. Come on. Everyone has disappointments. Disappointments are not special gifts reserved for you. The question is, what are you going to do about them? Self-imposedly my taios. To be successful, we must all work to eliminate those self-imposed limitations that are stunting our personal development. And no matter who you are, there are 3 self-imposed limitations you have to contend with. The first limitation is procrastination. Procrastination is especially dangerous because of its accumulating nature. When we put off doing some minor task, it doesn't seem to be all that important. And if we let a few things slide during the day, it doesn't seem like such a bad day. But let enough of those days pile up and you have the makings of a disastrous year. Blame is another self-imposed limitation. At one time or another, all of us have blamed someone for something. Why do we point fingers instead of looking within? The ego strives to defend itself. Therefore, when we blame outside forces, we don't have to face our own weaknesses and failings. One of my favorite items on the list was the high cost of everything. One day, after some inane statement I made about the cost of an item, my mentor cut me short. Listen, he said, cost is not your problem. It's not that it costs too much. The problem is that you can't afford it. And he was right. It's never the fault of a T. If you keep shifting responsibility to it, you'll always be broke and disillusioned. You'll never earn enough. But when you start thinking in terms of me instead of, you'll experience a surge of personal growth and income. Excuses, the third self-imposed limitation, is a close relative of blame. Guess how many excuses exist, right? Millions, and people create a million more in the course of their lives. In fact, people go to tremendous lengths to avoid facing the truth, which is that they are responsible. I guess they'd rather create 1,000,000 excuses than create $1 million. You can't have both. So here is the fundamental question you must answer. What are you going to do, starting today, to improve yourself? It really boils down to this. If you don't get rid of some of your own self-imposed limitations, the next 5 years will be about the same as the last, except that you'll be 5 years older. But by taking responsibility and getting rid of your self-imposed limitations, you can instead become 5 years better. Now, doesn't this sound more exciting? There are many who have little faith in their own ability. They ask themselves, what am I capable of doing? What can I do to make a difference in how my life turns out? Let me first give you the broad answer to these questions. You can do the most remarkable things. No matter what kinds of winners life throws your way, people can rise to unbelievable heights. When called upon, a woman lifts a 2-ton car to save her child. A man survives starvation and disease because he dreams of seeing his family. Immigrants start their new lives by washing dishes, and within 5 years by scrimping and saving. Own their own thriving businesses. Remarkable. I also found out that kids can do remarkable things. That is, if they have remarkable things to do. Just get them away from the TV and challenge their minds and bodies. They will grow to be remarkable people. Human beings can do remarkable things because they are remarkable. You and I aren't amoeba, fish, birds, or dogs. We can turn nothing into something, pennies into fortune, disaster into triumph. In contrast, when a dog starts with weeds, he ends up with weeds. The reason, he's just a dog. He doesn't have the ability to create. So accept the fact that you are remarkable. Thrive on your uniqueness. Reach down inside yourself and bring out more of your remarkably human gifts. They are there, waiting to be discovered and used. Once you bring out all your gifts, you can change anything you need to change. If you don't like how it is for you now, change it. If it isn't enough, change it. If it doesn't suit you, change. If it doesn't please you, change. Remember, after all, you aren't just a plant or an animal, completely dependent on instinctive behavior. You are a human being, a most remarkable creation. You and I are too sophisticated to think that we can change simply by reading this bit of philosophical insight. It will take lots more than that. What will it take? Perhaps I should first tell you what isn't going to do it. That some people will tell you enthusiasm makes all the difference. We hear a lot about enthusiasm these days. The old cliche perseveres. But you see, enthusiasm by itself won't help, I'm sorry. After you have leaped about, jumping and shouting, there are still some things waiting for you to do. And unless you do them, things simply won't change. A man can get all excited about lifting 200-pound weights until he gets to the gym. Then he needs a new kind of excitement, long-term excitement that will keep him in training until he can lift the 200 pounds. We call this kind of excitement discipline. Frankly, discipline is the only thing that will do it. It is the only vehicle for real progress. If there is one thing to get excited about, it's discipline. Get excited about your ability to do the necessary things for growth. That's true excitement, not just hopeful panic. Yo Hanji, no one understands as I do the inherent difficulty in changing old and persistent habits. But habits begin to change when we begin to change our perceptions. Most of us don't experience a huge cataclysmic transformation. No, for most of us change comes as an evolutionary process of almost imperceptible changes. We just keep nudging ourselves in the right direction, forming one or two better habits here and there until finally we realize we have turned around a major area of our life. The 3 areas of personal development. In your quest for personal development, there are 3 areas for you to consider. You can look at developing yourself spiritually, physically. Spiritual self-development. I was raised in a home filled with deep faith, which imbued me with a strong sense of ethics. But regardless of your background, I think you should evaluate what growth and change you want to make in this vital area. Spiritual and ethical values will help build a strong foundation underneath your quest for wealth and happiness. Physical self-development, we should treat our bodies like temples. But beyond hygiene, I think we need to make a point of draping our temple, dressing in a way that's appropriate to our desire to succeed. Let's face it, how we appear to others does make a difference in terms of our ability to function well in the marketplace. People look on the outside, at least initially. Now maybe you think people shouldn't judge you by your personal appearance. Well, let me tell you, they do. And because they do, you should make a point of looking your best. Another aspect of physical development has to do with staying in shape. The body and mind work together. And for your mind to have the stamina to strive, your body should be in as good a shape as possible. Do you have a regular exercise program? If not, find one you can follow and get started. In addition, make sure you pay attention to the foods you eat and the supplemental nutrition you take. Mental self-development. For most people, mental development stops at an early age. Once they have a good job, it's easy for many to stop pursuing mental development. Have you heard about the accelerated learning curve? From birth to age 18, our learning curve is dramatic. We learn a staggering amount quickly, but as we grow older and find our niche in the marketplace, our learning curve reaches a plateau. In the past, if all you wanted was an average life, this non-growth mentality was acceptable. I say it was because that's no longer true. The last few decades are demanding constant growth and learning. As technology keeps accelerating the pace of change, no one can simply hold on to a job and expect that job to remain the same for 40 years. The mentality of doing the same job for generations is dying, killing with it the hopes of those who are not willing to accept the need to grow and to adapt. On the positive side, can you imagine what you can become if you keep up an accelerated learning curve throughout your life? Can you imagine what skills you'll develop, what insights you'll have? Because forming the habit of personal growth will require the consistent effort that only discipline provides. Let me give you a key to discipline. Start with the little disciplines and begin to string them together. Gradually, you'll discover that by tackling many small disciplines, you'll have mastered a big one. I urge you to take on a small challenge, something you can do right now, and then take on another. After a while, when the big challenges come your way, you'll be able to handle them with complete confidence. Do you want to lose weight? Start by eating your bread unbuttered. Do you want to go to Europe? Start by setting aside $20 each week. Do you want to be punctual? Start by getting up a half hour earlier. Do you want to make $1 million sale? Start by making a $50 sale, as the saying goes. By inch, everything's a cinch. But if you never take the small steps, no one, including yourself, will trust you with the big ones. Don't be like the man who struts out of his house determined to straighten out the profit picture of the corporation when he hasn't even straightened out his own personal budget. Who is he kidding? You see, everything affects everything else. Every discipline or lack of one affects every other discipline. Mistakenly, a man says, "This is the only place where I let down." That cannot be. Every low standard will adversely affect the rest of your performance. Why? Because doing less than you are capable of doing creates lack of self-esteem, and lack of self-esteem is the greatest deterrent to success. Self-motivated, I was once asked, Are you one of those motivators? I said, no, I'm a businessman. I can share my ideas and my experiences, but people have got to motivate themselves. It took me a while, but I finally realized that you can't change others. I've tried.